Greetings world. We are anonymous. The United States is pursuing a neocon agenda in Ukraine and Russia in order to weaken and destabilize the two countries, a political commentator says. There is a neocon effort to go after Russia because Russia did not support the War for Israel agenda against Israel's enemies, said James Morris, an editor for AmericaHijack.com, an anti-Zionist blog.
With regard to what's happening in Ukraine with the, it's basically a neocon agenda, the Project for the New American Century that's been disbanded in name only, and you have neocon shills like John McCain who have been basically pushing the neocon agenda not only in Syria and Iraq in wars for Israel in both of those countries, but they'd like to also weaken Russia by separating Georgia, like we saw with the Georgia-Russia war during the Olympics that happened a few years ago, and now, most recently, with what's been happening in Ukraine. You've also got NGOs, as writer Paul Craig Robertson referred to, and one of which is the National Endowment for Democracy, MED, as it's referred to. And you can go to my USHijacked.com blog. I've got a post there on the first page that talks about it. And that's basically a neocon front. And you have, like I mentioned, John McCain, who's with the Republican Party, of course, and the GOP faction of MED. And they encourage revolutions like we saw with the Orange Revolution prior in Ukraine. And again, this is part of the NATO encirclement that has been going on against Russia. If you keep in mind, when the Cold War had come to an end, there were agreements that were made between Gorbachev and the U.S. not to go into Russia's sphere of influence, and of course that's the Soviet Union and the former Soviet states of Georgia and Ukraine. And right after that, the neocons and the rest of the Israel lobby basically pushed to not only get the NATO encirclement with Georgia and Ukraine, but also the anti-missile defense, which they claimed was a defense against Iranian missiles. But anybody who looked at it objectively knew that it was against Russia. And any of those anti-missile interceptors could have been used offensively. So what we're looking at here is a neocon effort to go after Russia because Russia did not support the War for Israel agenda against Israel's enemies, Syria and Iran. So the neocons would like to weaken Russia, and that's what we see happening in Ukraine.
So the neocons would like to weaken Russia, and that is what we see happening in Ukraine, Morris told Press TV. It is a very dangerous situation because the crisis in Ukraine could cause another world war, he added. The neocons have been encouraging what has been happening in Ukraine. The Ukrainian parliament ousted President Viktor Yanukovych and named Oleksandr Turchynov as interim president. Ukraine has been rocked by anti-government protests since Yanukovych refrained from signing a trade agreement with the European Union on November 29, 2013, in favor of closer ties with Russia. Analysts say American neocons engineered the overthrow of the pro-Russian Yanukovych in a coup spearheaded by neo-Nazi militias. U.S. National Security Advisor Susan Rice warned Russia against sending military troops into Ukraine. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. To the United States government, we will show the world your corrupted ways. So, expect that.